Football is back, baby. Oh, yeah, baby. Ravens Chiefs tonight. Plus, we're going to talk a lot of New York Jets today. Ripple effects from the Michael Carter II contract. Let's roll.
I'm going to lose my gosh darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
You're fucking wrong!
Howdy diddly, everybody. I'm Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your friggin' podcast, baby. Oh, yeah, welcome to the show. We're here on a Thursday. Again, football is back tonight. NBC, Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, AFC Championship rematch, baby. Terrific. I can't wait for football to be back. It is exceptional. We, of course, have to wait. I was talking, obviously, I work at the radio station, and I do the Syracuse Mets game. So I'm normally at the radio station till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And there's a janitor that comes through, doing janitorial things, I suppose. Anywho, every time he knocks on my door, because he has to take out the trash out of the sports station. And we were just chatting it up. And he was like, oh, boy, Jets fan, you got to wait all the way till Monday. And I'm like, I know, but good things come to those who wait. So we'll be able to, in a rare occasion, sit back and kind of enjoy the rest of the football happening. And then we'll end week one with the cherry on top with the Jets on Monday Night Football. It's going to be great. And we will be joined by, in just a few minutes, Nick Faria, our Jets reporter from the Pro Football Network and Athlon Sports, to give us all the latest on all things New York Jets and explain the ripple effects of Michael Carter II. We haven't gotten a full shish kebab of Michael Carter II and everything else that entails, so we'll have that going. And plus, I'll give you guys a shout out for those of you who pay attention to the videos that are like, hey, this is coming. Mike Greenberg, Greeny, will be joining the show tomorrow, and it's going to be, that's a jaw-dropping moment, man. Greeny is the reason I'm in this business, so that conversation tomorrow morning, Boy Green Daily. We've had Jerko Kotry this week. We've had Greeny, and now Nick Faria, baby, our Jets reporter from the Pro Football Network and Athlon Sports, graces us with his presence on a Thursday with football back. Good morning, Nick.
Hey, how's everything going, Paul?
Well, everything's going great. I've told you this privately. I told the fans publicly what happened, but I just have to say again, man, thanks for the pivot. Jerko Kotry really appreciated it. And look at you. I think it works out even better because now we have you here on a football Thursday. But thank you for the flexibility, my friend.
Listen, happy holidays. That's all this is about. Happy holidays to you and yours. It's a great time to be alive. Football is back. It's time to celebrate.
Finally. It felt like an incredibly long offseason, but I probably say that every year, to be honest with you, to be candid. But nonetheless, it's great to have it fully back. There's no question about it. I want to start with Michael Carter II because that was surprising. It didn't seem like anyone outside of, again, shout out to Will Parkinson, who I know is really close to Michael Carter II. So he must have had some indication. But outside of him, it seems like it was a total surprise when this extension came out of nowhere. It's an extension, quite frankly, I think I speak for a lot of Jet fans, we wanted before the season, but mere days away, and the Hassan Reddick thing, we're like, boy, guess it's not going to happen. Hopefully they figure it out next offseason. And booyah, seemingly out of nowhere, they locked down a very key piece of their team.
Well, I kind of see it as two-pronged. The first, obviously, being they haven't had a situation like this where they extended a player that they had drafted, a homegrown talent that they're still very high on. And Michael Carter, for all intents and purposes, has been one of Joe Douglas's better draft picks throughout his 4 or 5 year run as general manager of the New York Jets. So that all plays a part in it as well. When you have such a great player, you need to lock him up to a long-term extension. The fact that the Jets haven't been able to do that is a sign that the players were not good enough to extend. Not that, the Jets should have or should not have. The other piece to it is the Jets have learned their lesson. And last year with Bryce Huff, really, I think was a key demarcation point. We can argue left and right if it was right to throw Bryce Huff into free agency without getting anything back from him. A third-round compensatory pick at best, Most likely it's not even going to come this year because of the free agent signings they've made. So really, essentially letting Bryce Huff walk for nothing is certainly a question that a lot of people had. A lot of people were concerned about with Hassan Reddick not showing up to training camp. But the one mark that I always talk about general managers is they have to learn from their mistakes. You look at some examples of GMs across the league who have a mindset of how to improve their roster and don't deviate from it. I look at Dave Gettleman, who worked with the Panthers and then worked with the Giants, and it was the same process over and over again. I need players at the skill position before I need the offensive line, and I need this and I need that. And it completely blew up the Giants, and it's really putting the Giants in a terrible situation for Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, although I don't think Joe Shane has really helped himself out at all. So when you have general managers who don't learn from their mistakes, it prolongs the poor play. It prolongs the problems that are festering within each organization. And that's why you look at where Joe Douglas is right now with this Michael Carter extension. He learned from his mistake of letting a homegrown talent walk in free agency, and he was making sure that it was not going to happen again. Listen, if they got to the offseason, if they got to 2025 and Michael Carter was still not signed, there's a very good chance he walks in free agency because the Jets have to worry about Sauce Gardner. They have to worry about Garrett Wilson, Elijah Vera Tucker, all these top players on the roster that play more prominent positions than slot corner. So it was very important for Douglas to get this done now and ahead of the offseason in 2025. It shows that he learned from his mistakes in a big way.
Blessed be he. MC2 locked in for the foreseeable future. And I couldn't believe it when someone tweeted it, but it was to what you just said. This is the first Joe Douglas draft pick to receive a multi-year extension. Now, Ashton Davis was brought back, but that doesn't count. Like a multi-year deal handed to him to lock him in. Is Michael Carter II. Yeah, he might be the best draft pick that Joe Douglas ever had. A guy that came in as like a quasi, depending on your evaluation, a safety corner, and now he's certainly being paid like it, the best nickel back in all of football. Terrific, great story. You root for these kind of things. So what's the ripple effects here? It obviously. MC2 and Sauce Gardner are not swimming in the same waters from a financial perspective. I'm sure the Jets wish they were, but they're not. So what are the ripple effects here? And then also like a guy like DJ Reed, does this confirm the epitaph for DJ Reed's tenure with the New York Jets?
Yeah, I think with Reed, this is his final year. He's known it. I think the Jets have known it. The writing's been on the wall for months. Whether they locked up Michael Carter or not, they're not going to pay DJ Reed the kind of money that starting cornerbacks coming off 2 or even 3 really good seasons are looking for. So I think it's a fair point to say that he is probably gone after this season. I look at Sauce Gardner. Does Michael Carter's extension impact his deal at all? No, but Patrick Surtain's deal does. He was paid, 4 years, $96 million, roughly an average around $24 million a year. I think now more than ever, we are going to be seeing Sauce Gardner make $25 million on this next contract because you just add everything together. Patrick Surtain is one of the best cornerbacks in football, but he does not have the resume that Sauce Gardner has to this point. 2-time first-team All-Pros, the first defensive back in NFL history since the merger to be given those awards. So, yeah, I think it's more than deserving to say that Sauce Gardner is going to be the highest-paid cornerback in 6 months. The only question is, how much is that? Is it going to be 25? Is it going to be 26? I think 25 is a sweet deal. I know Sauce is not going to, put the Jets in cap hell overall. I know he wants this defense to stay elite. He also wants to be paid. He wants to be his fair share, and he's next in line to get this big payday. But $25 million, I think, seems like the sweet spot if Surtain's making 24. The other side, because there is another ripple effect to this.
Okay, do tell.
It's the message that the Jets and Joe Douglas send to the rest of this roster. When you have Michael Carter, an elite player at his position, getting the long-term extension and making him the highest paid player at his position, what does that tell Garrett Wilson? What does that tell Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Elijah Vera Tucker? It tells you that the Jets are willing to go to the negotiating table and say, we will pay you your worth. We will be fair about your worth, and we aren't going to have any problems doing it. So I think this message and this ripple effect is great news for the long-term future of this team, because if they're willing to pay Michael Carter, what is it, 3 years, $30 million, 19 guaranteed, if they're willing to do that, then that tells you that they're going to be able to and willing to pay Sauce Gardner the most money, pay Garrett Wilson the most money, give a fair offer to Breece Hall, Elijah Vera Tucker, all these other guys that are going to need long-term extensions. The Jets going to be comfortable in doing so.
For those who, got their Halloween detective costumes early, they were on the wrong case. We saw before the MC2 contract, we're like, Tyler Conklin, Quincy Williams restructure. Randomly creating around $8 million. They already had $20 million. Now they have $28 million. Aha! Eureka, presto, whatever word you want to emit from your mouth hole. Okay, it's Hassan Reddick time. Then the MC2 thing, everyone like, whoa. And then people say, whoa, well, how the MC2 contract is structured, perhaps that still has the door wide open for Hassan Reddick. What was your take on all that?
Yeah, the Michael Carter extension does not affect what the Jets are going to do this season. It absolutely will not, because he's in the final year of his contract. In most of these extensions, what happens is the team will extend in years in the future. This is not the third, this is not part of the 3-year deal. It's essentially a 4-year contract because he's playing under the original rookie deal that he signed 4 years ago that it is now. So it's this and then 3 years of this extension. So Carter's deal has no impact really on the salary cap unless they come to an agreement to lower the cap hit. Now that could save a few $100,000, a couple million, just adding the cap space in total. And I know there are some people out there saying, it's purely coincidental that the Jets have made this move at this point. They're not anywhere close to Hassan Reddick, and they just want to have more flexibility. Well, they had flexibility. They had $20 million in cap space. $20 million is pretty flexible. It's among the most in the National Football League, far more than some of these other teams that are really, really struggling for money. But I say this, I've said this consistently. It's like a red herring. Okay, so you created this cap space. You mean to tell me that Hassan Reddick was going to take an $18 to $20 million deal, even though he clearly hasn't been happy about it? Or the fact that you got $8 million exactly to push it over 25 is just pure coincidence? I'm sorry, I don't buy that, because when the Jets are trying to create a team and try to build this team the right way, they're going to have to pay Hassan Reddick eventually. And they will pay Hassan Reddick eventually, because if they play poorly in week 1, that's going to give Reddick the leverage he needs. If they play poorly down the stretch, they're going to want to get a deal done, and Reddick cannot afford to sit out games. I've said this consistently. He cannot afford in a contract year at 29 years old to sit out a full season. It's just impossible for him to get the money he wants based off of that reality. So listen, the Jets, and some people can say that this is purely coincidental. You don't make $8 million in cap space to go up to $28 million for a defensive end who's currently sitting out away from the team, pushing to make 25 without it being coincidental. I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, Nick. And also, I see Jake Hasman chiming in here on Twitter. Nick Faria, a handsome son of a gun. I couldn't agree more. Yes, absolutely. Yes, he brings it to the table. And Jake Hasman also adding in, Boy Green was born to wear green. I'm wearing a weird Jets black today, but you know what? Nonetheless, Jake, that is absolutely true. And Jake Hasman had Rich Cimini on the show yesterday. It was a terrific find. And Nick Faria, we're part of an elite club. I don't know if you realize this with the Jake Hasman show. We both made the cut. He released his graphic with his lineup for the season, and I saw both of our faces on it, and I was just like I was chosen for something, like, an award, and I'm just like, blessed be he, and I come up and make a speech, they play the music, and I'm quickly rushed off stage. We're both on the Jake Hasman list. Wow.
Jake's fantastic. He was part of the reason why all you guys have been fantastic all throughout the year and the last 2 years of my coverage. Just being able to get involved is awesome. Certainly it's helped out a lot of things and bringing in viewers. So can't appreciate him. Can't appreciate the fans enough. Can't appreciate you enough, Paul, as well.
Wow. Okay. I appreciate squeezing that in. By the way, the people on the screen, for those watching, I know we have a lot of people that prefer the audio only podcast. I don't blame you. after, I claim I'm the most handsome man in radio, so I totally understand why you prefer the audio version, and that's why that option's available for you. But for those who have ventured over to the YouTube side, on the screen is at Nick_Faria 1720, and Nick, 5K, baby, you popped the bubbly before the Jet season, and cheers to 10K. Congratulations, buddy.
Appreciate it. And again, it's not me. It's all the fans. They've been fantastic. They come to me for takes. They come to me for analysis. I just do the best I can with what I got. So appreciate everyone for the follows and appreciate everyone for the support.
And if you're not, make sure you are. Again, at Nick_Faria 1720. Make sure you guys are hitting that up on the Twitter machine. The current pinned comment on YouTube is how you guys can join the Boy Green Coffee Club, our YouTube membership group that is pinned on YouTube in the comment section. It's also available down in the bio. I checked before the show. We are 36 members away from the next Imamji, where my mother will be immortalized forever in emoji form. God, how proud could she be? I mean, honestly, that I'm doing something with my life that could get a cartoon version of her that people can randomly start posting at other times. I've seen the emoji. It looks awesome. Shout out to Snowball. But again, we need another 36 members to unlock that at some point here in the very near future. Okay, looking ahead to this Jets 49ers game coming up on Monday Night Football. Again, I was telling a story before the show that, it's the last game, so there's a lot of waiting. The Jets have had that a couple of times. Obviously, last year, Sam Darnold's rookie year was a Monday Night Football game. There's been a couple of instances where they've opened the season on Monday Night Football. What's your temperature right now? What's your feeling? We still, obviously, any injuries can surprisingly come up, as you've told Robert Saleh stories in the past. Everything's great. Then, whoa, mama, what the hell? So we have to be prepared for the unknown at any point. But right now, with everything we know about the 49ers and Jets heading in, how are you feeling about this matchup, which is arguably the hardest game on the schedule for the New York Jets in the hardest environment?
Yeah, listen, I've kind of been on the record saying that the Jets can win this game, and I think they match up very well with the 49ers. And that was before Trent Williams locked into an extension. That was before Brandon Ayuk locked into an extension. And that was before Christian McCaffrey came back to practice. And I'm going to continue to say that statement because I look at where the Jets are right now, and I look at where the 49ers are. The 49ers have had Trent Williams, McCaffrey, and Ayuk out for most of training camp. Sure, they can ramp up to a point where they can be ready to play for the start of the season. But are they going to be as effective going into this season? That's not really a guarantee. You look at Nick Bosa last season, who sat out almost all of training camp and signed a deal leading into week 1. He only put up 10.5 sacks. Now, he's a great player. You have to expect that Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey are still going to be able to produce. But there was a steep drop-off in production from Nick Bosa last season, and he even said that missing training camp mattered. It mattered for him. Trent Williams being older, Christian McCaffrey already dealing with a calf injury. There's no guarantee that these guys are going to be ready and 100% for the start of the season. So I look at this from the perspective of, okay, the Jets absolutely could use Hassan Reddick in this matchup. He has already haunted the 49ers once. He would probably be able to do it again with how bad the 49ers offensive line has looked the last few years without Trent Williams on the field. So I look at where they are right now. I still think they're a really good matchup. I think Breece Hall, with his running capabilities, with the offensive line, the way it's been reconstructed, it matches up well with what the 49ers defense does poorly. And I think it was Nani of Jets X Factor yesterday. I still haven't been able to check out the tweet. But I think it was Nani of X Factor who essentially said the gap control scheme of the Jets offensive line is essentially the Achilles heel of the 49ers and has been for the last decade. I still haven't really looked at the film yet. I was planning on doing it later today, maybe even tomorrow before the Eagles game. But I look at where things are currently, and I sit there and say, Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, the offense fully healthy. Can they get to 24 points? Sure. Can the Jets defense hold the 49ers to around 20 points without Hassan Reddick? Yeah, I think so. The matchup to watch is obviously going to be George Kittle. You need to be able to make sure that tight end cannot burn you consistently. And you need to make sure that Christian McCaffrey does not get to the outside. And I think they'll be able to stymie that with Jamian Sherwood, with Quincy Williams. I think Michael Clemens, this is a matchup for him overall. I think Jermaine Johnson's about to go off. I'm still pretty confident that the Jets can walk in and pull off an upset, even without one of their better players.
Yeah, I think to your tight end point of like, let's rein that in because last season Jet fans still have nightmares about David Njoku going wild in a primetime football game where like a cajillion yards, and that's obviously the official statistic, a cajillion yards in that game, like in the first quarter. Like, oh, good Lord, have mercy! What happened to this impenetrable elite defense? So it's very much a fair point. We're going to be debuting a new like YouTube short almost. It's going to be like, like 5 minutes in length later today. It's a Jets versus series where me and James Woody will be arguing about some Jets topic where I pick one side, he picks the other. I'll give you the first whack at the pinata. Our argument topic today is, can the Jets still rush the passer effectively without the services of Hassan Reddick? And we are assuming, by all accounts here, now that we're on Thursday, days before the game, that he is not going to report now. Again, we'll see. Hopefully we're surprised and I can throw gasoline all over that versus segment and light it on fire. I'd be more than willing to sacrifice that to the football gods to bring Reddick home. But assuming not, our debate point will be one of us will be taking the side of, oh, yeah, we could definitely still rush a passer without Hassan Reddick. And the other side would say, absolutely not, we can't. Where do you stand, Nick Faria?
When did Quentin Williams fall off the map?
Yes.
The Jets have a first-team All-Pro defensive tackle. And this is where I say I think we're getting a little ridiculous on the concern overall.
Okay.
You can get pass rush from anywhere. And if you have a dominant defensive tackle, it opens up the conversation for a lot of other players. So Quentin Williams being on the field kind of tells me, hey, you know what? I don't think they're going to be as bad as people expect. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think, because Jermaine Johnson, first-round pick, really developed well in his second season. Will McDonald going into his second year, looking pretty solid in preseason and training camp. All those points made. And listen, Hassan Reddick's an important player. He will be an important player because his ability in the clutch makes him a top 5 edge rusher in the National Football League. But to say they can't rush the passer when they already have a first-team All-Pro player along the position, I just think that's foolish. I don't think it's giving enough credit to what the talent the Jets have, and I don't think it's giving credit to the Jets coaching staff. I mean, for Christ's sakes, the record is what it is for Robert Saleh. I get it. What about the defense? The defense has been pretty damn good for the last 3 years. Been pretty damn good and pretty elite, regardless of who's rushing the passer. They had one 10-plus sack guy in the last 2 years when they were a top 5 defense, and he only got to 10.5. It's not like he was 15, 16 sacks where he was clearly the best player on that group. He had 10.5 sacks. Can we please give Robert Saleh, can we please give Jeff Ulbrich some credit and to say, you know what? Yes, we don't have our better pass rusher. I get it. But I trust the coaching staff in this particular situation because they have clearly shown they can win. I saw a game last year where they were taking on the defending NFC champions who have 2 all-pro caliber wide receivers at their disposal, and they had an all-pro tight end. And they had a quarterback who was making $50 million who had just out-dueled Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl outside of everything else but the scoreboard. And the Jets walked in without their number 1 corner, the number 2 corner, and the number 4 corner, and they still won the game. Yeah. Can we please give Robert Saleh some credit to say, hey, you know what? They'll figure it out. Well, I'm not worried about this yet until I need to be worried about it. They'll figure it out.
I also appreciate you not name dropping whoever that team you could be referencing.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I got short-term memory loss. I have no idea. So again, with that versus segment, everything I just said, I'm assuming that Reddick is not going to be here. But we have a question here from FL Phil 98, a loyal member of the Boy Green Coffee Club. He asked, Nick, is today the day that Reddick gets done? Because I believe today's supposed to be the big practice for the New York Jets ahead of Week 1 on Monday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. What is your answer to FL Phil 98?
Probably not. If that deal was going to get done, it was going to get done last night. And this is kind of why I say the red herring is that the Jets have created cap space. I wouldn't be surprised if New York gets Reddick in the building over the next few days, because they now have the ability to go to him and say, okay, how much money do you want? It could also mean that they're essentially waiting to see what happens in Week 1. If, like I said, if they can't get after Brock Purdy and the defensive line really struggles to record some sacks and get some pressures, then Reddick can go back and say, well, You need me more than I need you. Give me my money. And the Jets can now go back and say, you know what? I really wanted to see our guys perform. They didn't perform. We need a solution in a make or break year. Let's bring in Hassan Reddick on a deal he's looking for. Now you give him the money because you have the flexibility in order to do so. So I look at where the Jets are. I don't think a deal gets done today, at least at this point before practice. Probably doesn't get done during practice. I would say look in the afternoons and evenings to determine how close these guys actually are.
Last question here, then the phone lines are open, so we'll start taking those calls. That is the pinned comment on youtube.com/BoyGreen25. Again, it is Boy Green Daily with Nick Faria, our Jets reporter here on the show, so you guys can line up those calls. We'll get to those in a minute. But I have one more question because I saw Jake basically ask that leverage question we just kind of asked about Monday night and this, that, win-loss, what it could mean for both sides potentially. And Rich gave his answer. And then Jake followed up by saying, well, does the leverage really change that much, even if the Jets lose to the 49ers? Because you could turn around and say, as I mentioned, kind of the precursor to even asking about the 49ers in general. It's the hardest game on the Jets schedule. It's week one. Weird things happen week one all the time. You stack all that up. Reddick probably has no leverage right now. And then in the 49ers game, if that goes a certain way, okay, maybe he gets a little bit more, but still, the Jets are the one that holds all the cards to everything that you said before, and that doesn't necessarily change outside of the Jets trying to convince themselves that, oh boy, we need Hassan Reddick. It seems like maybe the leverage won't change. What do you say to that response?
If they start 0-1, it's going to change. It's going to change pretty quickly because Tennessee, and you have to look forward into the matchups. Yeah. I have said before, whether they win or lose this game is irrelevant for the Jets. They'll be able to still make the playoffs. They could even start 4-1 based on the schedule they have because Tennessee isn't that good, or at least a little bit questionable. The Patriots stink. The Broncos stink. The Vikings, you have no idea what's going to happen with Sam Darnold, if he's going to be even the starting quarterback then. If they lose to the 49ers, though, and the pass rush isn't getting home, and they go 0-1, you cannot start 0-2. You cannot start 0-2. And that is what's going to put the pressure on the Jets. That's where that added leverage comes in. The Titans aren't historically good, but they've done a lot to improve the team. They've done a lot to improve the offensive line. They've done a lot to improve the receiving room, the secondary, the defensive line, all of it. It's why I say, okay, if you can't get pressure against this 49ers offensive line, against a Trent Williams who's had no time to prep for the season, against a 49ers offensive line that is dealing with a bunch of no-name guys along the line the rest of the way. I know Pooney's been pretty solid in the preseason, but he's still a rookie. You have no idea what he's going to look like, and he plays guard. That's not the fundamental key of this position. They don't have a right tackle. They haven't had a right tackle for a decade. If you can't get pressure on this, what's going to happen when you're taking on a Titans team that has a better offensive line, or the Patriots, or the Broncos, all these other teams? What's going to happen when you actually play these games? There is going to be significantly more pressure if the Jets start 0-1 and the pass rush doesn't get there. Now, if they start 0-1 and it's a close game and they record 4 or 5 sacks and they lose something like 26-24, I think Jet fans should be very excited. And I think the Jets maintain their leverage because they say, listen, we were in it. 1 or 2 plays changes it. Could Hassan Reddick have made those plays? Absolutely. But we trust our guys enough to be able to grow into that. That's different. But I'm talking they lose 31-17. Defensive line is just completely discombobulated, and they start 0-1. That's what I'm talking about overall.
And last thing here, before we get to the phone calls, I see FL Phil 98. I would try to interpret your question because I don't think it makes sense. But he's basically saying, if we don't have him for this week, will we pay him for this week? Rich Cimini said on Jake Hasman show yesterday that for a player playing on a Sunday game to report and get the quote-unquote game check, they have to be there the day before, which is Saturday. He said he isn't sure how that changes for Monday Night Football. Does that mean they have until Sunday for him to potentially report? So there was a rumor floating around that there was some report date this week that he had showed up by like Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, for it to count. apparently Rich Cimini kind of shot that down and said, no, it's just showing. Now, in terms of him actually playing, if he shows up the day before, will they still put him out on the field and risk injury and things of that nature? That I don't know. But Rich Cimini said that there is no kind of floating date like that. That will be basically 24 to 48 hours before the game. It won't be like this midpoint of the week, according to Rich. All right, let's jump on over to the phone lines here. We've got the legendary Hep here on the program. What's up, Hep?
Hey, Paul, I got the song for you.
Okay.
Are you ready? Okay,
yeah.
Now I'm going to have to put the phone by the amp because my system's a little wacky, okay?
Okay.
But
Great.
so you're gonna look like at an amp. So okay, give me a second. Okay, here we go.
Sure. Wow. Okay. Here we go.
Watching New York Jets football. It's the New York Jets football club.
Offense, defense, special teams, watch the Super Bowl season with Boy Green. Jets, Jets. Boy Green, Boy Green.
Watching football. Jets football. It's the New York Jets football club.
Defense, special teams, watch the Super Bowl season with Boy Green. Jets. Boy Green.
Watching Jets football, man.
Boy Green.
New York Jets football.
Defense, special teams, watch the Super Bowl season with Boy Green. Jets.
Wow. Okay, Hep. Beautiful. Yeah, so that is terrific. Make sure you send me that if you can. We email or pigeon carrier or what have you for the perfect quality to that. That'd be great to play on the show. Terrific work, Hep.
All right, bud. Sorry if it didn't come out too good.
That's okay. I can't wait to hear it in its full flavor, baby. It's going to be terrific, Hep. So you can reach out to me on anything, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we'll figure that out.
All right, buddy.
All right, awesome. Thanks,
Peace.
Hep. Wow. Okay, beautiful. Congratulations to Hep. He said he'd have it in. It's a little difficult to hear for some of the people in here, but I heard the theme. I heard the idea. It sounds spectacular. All right, we got a super chat coming in, and for every super chat, we have to do this.
Wow.
Soraya Luna, my beautiful daughter, introducing this Project Prospect with Dom C, our guy who joined us throughout the entire offseason for Mock Draft Mondays. He says, cheers to two of the greats. Oh, my. Okay. Feeding Breeze BA is the key to victory on Monday. SF offensive weapons can't hurt if they aren't on the field a lot. Interesting. What's your take to this here, Nick?
Yeah, this is the mantra, the go-to game plan for a lot of underdog teams. If you're playing a high-powered offense with a good quarterback and plenty of weapons, you keep them off the field, and that's the way to do it. So I look at where the Jets are and their best overall strategy, and yes, there is a weakness to the 49ers. There is a way for them to be able to stymie this elite defense, and that's running the football in between the tackles, really getting up and out physicaling this 49ers team and just keeping this offense off the field. It can be done. And more importantly, when you have an all-pro quarterback, a 4-time NFL MVP quarterback, you're in good shape. You're already in good shape to knock off a team like this. So I think the Jets are in a unique position, even without Hassan Reddick, to really surprise some people on Monday night.
I like the strategy of basically a ball control offense where you're eating or Brees and BA stand for Braylon Allen, the Jets rookie out of Wisconsin. That's interesting. And what we've said about Patrick Mahomes in years past when their offense was even more dynamic, that they can't hurt you if they aren't on the field. If you're doing these long, methodical drives and the defense is on their heels and you're really taking them to task, that could be interesting. So I love it, Dom C. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I think you're on to something, baby. Although, like I said, I'm going to be tempted to see some of that Aaron Rodgers play action passing game, which you could build off of something like this. So maybe we could get the best of both worlds. There's no question about it. Thank you to Tom C for that, baby. All right, we've got a member message. R&R jumps in. Jets will dominate on defense up the middle, 31-6 final. Good Lord have mercy. Nick, 31-6. Is that your prediction, maybe, for Monday night?
If Fred Warner goes down, it won't be 31-6. If Fred Warner, Brock Purdy, and Christian McCaffrey go down, it still won't be 31-6. If all those guys that I said, and Brandon Ayuk, and Trent Williams, and Deebo Samuel all go down, it still won't be 31-6. It's not going to happen. Sorry, it's not going to happen. The 49ers, they're a well-coached team. Shanahan, you got to give him his dues in the regular season. This isn't going to be 31-6. If the Jets are winning, it's going to be a grind-out session. They could end up winning by 11, which is still my prediction. But it'll be a close game throughout, and they'll tack on like a late field goal later in the game. It won't be something that, it won't be something like this.
Oh my! If the Jets win 31-6, I do not know how I will respond, and I can't be held responsible for however I respond to that. If the Jets blow the barn doors off the 49ers in San Francisco, the defending NFC Conference champion, in their house in their first game, woo-wee. Yeah. Oh baby, that would be that'd be something. That'd be a statement. No doubt about that. Good Lord have mercy. All right, let's keep the phone lines coming here. We got a Johnny boy here on the show. What's up, Johnny?
Nick, my guy. What's up,
brother? How's it been going, Johnny?
Hey, how are our Mets, right?
Listen, they're doing well. They're doing well. I'm not jumping on the massive bandwagon yet. They got to keep winning. They had a sweep and they didn't make up any ground in the wild card.
Right, because the Braves won last night too, right? Yeah,
ridiculous.
So that must mean there's still half a game then in the NL wild card race. I'll double check that, but I do believe so.
Yeah, half game.
Nick, who do they sweep again?
Oh, Boston.
Oh yeah, okay.
Great time to be alive.
That is
great time to be alive.
That silly memory of yours, Johnny. That silly memory.
Yeah. Hey, first off, Hep, that song is stuck in my head right now. Boy Green, are you ready? I think he said that. I don't know.
It did. Yeah. It's a little hard to hear, but I'm going to be honest. It did give me, it gave me those, like, again, now I just feel like it's almost like a Boy Green Daily in the elevator song. You're just,
Yep.
Oh yeah, now it's very catchy. I can't wait to, like I said, hear to give it its proper respect and love, where people hear the full verved version of it. So hopefully we could get that soon from Hep. That'd be great.
It reminded me of one of those songs that from like back in the day you used to work out to with the whole like leotard and
I forgot what it was.
Yeah, let's go, guys.
Yeah, man, exactly. But
that's terrific.
Football's back. I'm hyped. I saw both of you guys start tweeting out football's back, baby. Yeah. I cannot wait. But I wanted to ask this question for Nick, right? At this point with Hassan Reddick, and I know everybody's tired of talking about Hassan Reddick and everything, but it is what it is right now. Would you rather him come in and play maybe like a week 3, week 4, right? Sign him up or whatever, and let him get some of the reps under his belt to get him in that football shape, as I said, because that's a real thing, right? Because I don't want any kind of like soft tissue injury that can linger through the whole season, especially if we're making this, push for the playoffs and Super Bowl. Do you think that's something that is being talked in there in regards with like Sal and the whole coaching staff, or do we just say F it, put him in there? He'll have certain packages where we're just like, look, you don't have any assignment other than just rush the damn quarterback and knock his block off. I appreciate you guys. Wanted to ask that for you, Nick, real quick. So if you can answer, that'd be awesome. BG, you're the man. Nick, I always love your takes, brother. Keep doing your thing, man.
Appreciate it. So, I'll answer the question pretty quickly.
Sure.
First off, the Jets are going to acclimate Reddick slowly. They're not just going to throw him out there and play 50, 60 snaps. That's not going to happen. I think they are going to have a package of plays for him whenever he shows up and says, hey, your job is to rush the quarterback. Go after him, get the ball, and we'll be fine. I think later on, they'll try some unique things for him over and over again. But when I look at where the Jets are going to where Reddick is potentially, this is a match made in heaven overall because Reddick was dropped into coverage in Philly, and he wasn't used to his full potential the last couple of years, and he was still able to put up over 10 sacks. So I don't think it's going to be a long, drawn-out process of, the Jets should hope he comes back in week 4 so he's fully ready and all these other things. No. Get him in when you get him in, and you get him on the field as soon as possible because with his role, he's a clutch player. Get him in the fourth quarter, get him rushing the passer, and your team's going to be fine.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Also, I see Alan is always talking, but Alan in the comment section, just the thought of Michael Clemens starting in base is nightmarish. I would just say, regardless of who's starting, if me and Nick Faria are starting at defensive end, they rotate. So, like, I think we're kind of overrating the starters. Just because you start doesn't mean you're going to be playing a majority of the reps. Who knows? And I like Michael Clemens, by the way, so I push back entirely on that Baggio from Avatar there. Well, but in a general sense, I don't think it matters. We're rotating. Go ahead.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
Can you name me the last 3-down edge rusher? I mean, the true last 3-down edge rusher that was playing 75% of the snaps like Hassan Reddick was in Philadelphia. Reality is you can't in the Robert Saleh era. You can't. They rotate their edge rushers consistently. There's no such thing as a 3-down edge rusher. There isn't. Jermaine Johnson doesn't do it, and he's probably your best one capable of doing so. They don't do this thing. So if you're worried about Michael Clemens in base coverage, you're seeing him for maybe 2-3 snaps at best. Their base defense is what? 1st and 10? But then what happens when they add in an extra receiver? What happens if they go four wide receivers and Kittle's out wide? So you have to worry about all these guys. Are you worried about defending the run? No, just this defensive staff is good. Give them the credit to figure it out, for the love of God. I look at this, it's like, oh yeah, well, I don't like Michael Clemens at all. He's not a good football player. All these people, he's just not good. Okay, great. He's not good. I'll agree with you. Let's say he's not good. You don't think Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich can create a game plan that'll figure it out? Like, I saw them beat Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense with Michael Carter, and that was it. It blew my mind. It frustrated me to holy hell, but it blew my mind because I'm like, how is this happening? What is going on? That was essentially my point. I'm like, what am I watching? And they still were able to dominate at a high level. They still were impressive. So why is it that the Jets are able to do that in the secondary, but not in the front seven? Why is there a difference there? Sauce Gardner is a better player for his role than Hassan Reddick is at edge rusher. Sauce Gardner is the best cornerback in football. Hassan Reddick is probably a top 5 edge rusher. Maybe top 10. Why is that more important than Sauce Gardner in the modern NFL?
Makes a lot of sense. Again, Nick is just getting angrier and angrier throughout the show. He's going to turn green just like his shirt, and you're not going to like Nick Faria when he's angry. And I see, like Alan, again, he follows up with, I'm not even going to put the comment on the screen. I'd rather start Tack. Again, I just reiterate, go back to rule number 1. Taps the sign. They rotate. It does not matter who
It's not going to matter at all.
Anyway.
It's not going to matter at all. And listen, if I were telling you, the Jets should be worried about this, I would say it. I'm not someone that blows. I literally tell you what I see.
Yes.
When Philadelphia in 2017 drafted Derek Barnett in the first round, I said it was the dumbest draft pick I've ever seen in my life. They were rebuilding. They didn't need another pass rusher. And Derek Barnett only played like 20% of the snaps. But in the biggest games, he forced a fumble on Case Keenum in the NFC Championship game. He also recovered the fumble on Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. He recorded three sacks or whatever it was in his rookie season. He was part of a rotation with Chris Long and Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat and all these other guys. I don't think Sweat was on the team then, but I digress.
Yeah.
When you come at people in waves, it doesn't matter who's starting on first down. What matters is you get off the field, and it just doesn't matter. Trust the defensive staff to figure it out.
You'd think that our loyal Jet fans would, but I guess not. All right, let's go to our next caller. We have the legendary FL Phil 98 here on the program. What's up, buddy?
Good morning, gentlemen. I just wanted to clarify. Sometimes a little typo makes a big difference. I didn't put in the ing, so it said they will whatever, and it didn't make sense. It was after Nick's comment that maybe later this week they would bring him in. Okay, I was like, so they're willing to pay him 20 to 25 million and bring him in next week. So I was kind of like, well, if they're going to do it in the next few days, why not get it done today? Get him in the building. Maybe he plays a few snaps, even if he's just a decoy, whatever it is. What if you're going to pay him? Because not only are they going to pay him for this game, they're going to make up the fines and everything else. Push him up into the 20 million range or whatever. I'm like, if that's the case, if that's where they're at this point, then get it done, get him in the building, and let's go. So that was kind of like my mindset. And I'm not even saying that's what will happen or whatever. It's like, if you're going to sign him in 3 or 4 days, sign him now.
Yeah, that again, I before Nick answers, I agree. If you've created all this cap room and you're going to give him the deal that tickles the fancy of Reddick, then what the hell are we waiting for? Christmas? For God's sake, get him in immediately. If we're going to hand him that moolah, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, and I kind of said this before, but it's kind of the same thought process. I think they're waiting to see what happens in week 1. I don't have any basis of reporting. I don't have a report off it. My thought is, if they can't get something done by Saturday, they're just going to tell Reddick, we'll see what happens Monday night. And if we go in and dominate, we don't need you. Your price is lowering by the day. If they come out and get blown off the ball, they're going to have to go to Reddick, tail between the legs and saying, all right, what's the number? And Reddick's going to say 28 million now, and essentially kind of screw that over overall. But I think it's going to get done. I think it's a matter of when and not if, whether it happens this weekend, whether it doesn't. The Jets now have the flexibility to say, okay, we're sick of this conversation, get the deal done, and let's go forward.
Well, we're obviously all sick of this conversation, right? But to me, that right there, you talk about the ultimate game of chicken that I think is incredibly stupid at this point, okay? Because you're right. If they lose to San Francisco, they have all the leverage. They've had it from day one, okay? As you said earlier, this guy's going to come in. He has to, okay? Whether we lose to San Francisco or not should not mean that they go to him with hat in hand with another $10 million. It's the absolute wrong thing to do. It makes no sense that they played hardball all the way till now, and then based on one game, cave completely. That makes no sense to me at all, even if they get their ass kicked.
I will push back on that, and I will give historical context to it.
Okay.
1992 Dallas Cowboys. They go in, what was it? They started like 0-2, and they were obliterated. And Troy Aikman went up to Jerry Jones and said, I don't care what you have to do. Get Emmitt Smith's contract done. We need him. We've clearly shown we need him. Get the deal done. The Cowboys were under a strong amount of pressure because they hadn't won their Super Bowls yet. They were still trying to figure out who they were as a team with Jimmy Johnson as head coach. They were trying to play hardball with Emmitt Smith, and it wasn't working because the team was not playing as well. Leverage shifts on a dime. These conversations change on a dime. And if the Jets were to start 0-1, and they were to, like I said, the context is important. They start 0-1 and get blown out because the defensive line struggles. The Jets do not have the luxury of starting 0-2 or 1-3 and all these other things. They don't have the luxury for Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh and all these people. They need to start fast. So 1-1 after the first 2 games is perfectly acceptable. It's probably what people should expect. You can't lose to Tennessee. But what happens if you lose to Tennessee and Reddick's still not there? This is why I'm saying the leverage will change because they are under tremendous pressure to win this season. All of them, every single one of them in the organization is under tremendous pressure to win this season. So if you're saying that you're trying to play hardball with a player and then you're going to switch automatically because the results aren't good, that's exactly what the Cowboys did in 92. That's exactly what happened to them. And they ended up winning the Super Bowl because of it, because they said, fine, we'll relent. Here's the money you want. And they were perfectly fine then. I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happens here with Reddick. I wouldn't be surprised.
And while I understand your argument 100%, and I'm not saying you're wrong, there was a legendary political figure who once said, Senator, you're no John Kennedy. I don't know if you know that reference. Okay. Okay. Do you remember that reference?
I'm only 27, so I wasn't around for it. I've heard of it.
So, all right. So I know, just give me a second. I know it may seem a little silly, but it was a political debate between two VP candidates, and one of them talked about being older than John Kennedy when he sought the office of president, because he was being, beat up for being kind of young to be VP. All right. And the guy that was younger said, well, I have as much experience as John Kennedy had. The other guy said, I knew John Kennedy. I worked with him. You're no John Kennedy. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is
you're no Emmitt Smith.
Emmitt Smith, to what he meant to the Cowboys, especially at that time. Okay. Reddick's a great player. I would love to have him. I'm not trying to make an argument against it. I want him here. And I was the guy who wanted to sign him initially, a month ago. All right. Okay. But where they are now and what we just talked about, whether or not they can live without him and all that stuff, I don't care if it's 31-6 San Francisco. I don't think Hassan Reddick is what Emmitt Smith was to the Cowboys. If they get their ass kicked, it's not because if they get blown away, that's not because they didn't have Hassan Reddick.
Could be. Listen, wow. I'll say this. I've seen him firsthand. I've watched this guy play for 2 years now. I've seen his impact on a team. And are the Jets more talented than the Eagles' defense over the last couple of years? Of course. No one's arguing that. Mm-hmm. But I have seen the Eagles' defense put up 70 sacks in a single season. And everyone will say, oh, it was a collective. It was a collective. Look at every big play. I'm not even kidding. Look at every big play the defense has made in the last 2 years. And at least 60% of those plays were either caused by Reddick or were in result of Hassan Reddick doing something. I just the examples are too much to count. Whether he gets a pressure that forces a turnover, whether he forces a fumble that becomes a turnover, whatever it is, his play.
I agree. I'm the guy who wanted to give him an extension right from the get. All right.
So that's why I say he could be important. That's why I'm saying he could be the missing piece. I'm not saying he is, because the defense is very talented. They can make do without him. I've been saying that now for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But you're still talking about a top 5 edge rusher. That's very hard to come by.
And two separate issues. I agree with everything, and I've been there from the beginning on 2 separate issues. I'm saying you drag this thing all the way till now, and then based on a game that you lose, maybe you turn around and you come begging. It's a bad look. That's all I'm saying, I guess.
Yeah.
All right?
And Phil, I would say this, I'm probably supposed to side with Nick because he's my guest, but I'm going to be honest, I'm totally with you. And anyone in my life would agree. I am a stubborn mule. If I've been going at this thing for like I'm making up the 10 months and something happens, we're like, okay, Paul, now's the time. I'm like, no, damn it. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. I refuse. I am not doing it. So I will, if I am that deep, it's almost, some people should say like sunken costs, like, dude, get out. Like, hey, Paul, like worry about the now. I'm like, no. I'm too in deep. We've just been through all this, because I would feel like, to your point, Phil, and I know maybe it doesn't mean anything to some people now, but if they relent now, I think a lot of Jet fans are like, if you were just going to relent at the end, you had to make a conversation with yourself at the very beginning of this drama. Where is your line? Joe Douglas looking at himself in the mirror when he wakes up. Where's your line, buddy? Where is it? And there it is. And if you're just going to fold on that line, then fold on the line now and let's just get him in. And he would have been ready 4 months ago. That's
or at least a couple of weeks ago.
Or weeks, right, to your point. Exactly. Oh, boy, Nick again. Oh, boy, here we go.
Nick.
Go ahead, Nick.
Like Trent Williams with the 49ers? Like CeeDee Lamb with the Cowboys? What about Brandon Ayuk? Teams will do that.
That's my point. But that's my point. Bring him in now. Bring him in there.
I'm not debating that. I'm not,
Right.
That's not my argument.
Right.
What I'm saying is, whenever they come to an agreement,
Right.
you get the deal done when you get the deal done, and
That's
you give
true.
them the money. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you
Yeah.
have to relent and say, we lost the negotiation, we have to do this.
Right.
We have to get this done. The 49ers did it twice in the last week. They've done it twice where they've had to put their tail between their legs and say, okay, we really need these guys, and we're going to make Trent Williams the highest paid, left tackle in the NFL. And okay, well, we're going to have to do the same thing with Brandon Ayuk. And the Cowboys went, well, you know what? I don't want to pay CeeDee Lamb $35 million. I don't want to pay him $34 million. I guess we're going to have to pay him $34 million now. Shit. That's kind of my point here.
I hear you. You're right.
These teams do this all the time.
No, you're right. I hear you. So I'll just go from here. Appreciate you guys very much, Nick. I always enjoy these shows. So whatever happens, man, bring them in. Let's get this thing done. I'm just pumped for this year. Go Jets.
There we go. FL Phil 98. We appreciate you. Speaking of Trent Williams, we have a super chat coming in from Ace of Spade again on every super chat.
Wow.
Appreciate you, Ace of Spade. Does Trent Williams' return neutralize our defensive line on the edge? Nick Faria, I'll let you start this one.
Well, it's a big I don't know. And
Okay.
people are going to be upset with that answer. But in reality, we don't know what Trent Williams is going to look like. Mm-hmm. Is he going to be the same all-pro caliber player that is dominant going into week one with just a week of work? If that's the case, then damn right he should be able to neutralize the Jets' defensive line without Hassan Reddick. But if he's not ready, and there is evidence to show that he won't be ready, there is a chance that he's not ready because other players have struggled by not having a training camp, by not going to practice, and by only having a week of prep work. We've had evidence of this now for a very long time, that the players need training camp in order to prepare for the regular season. That could happen for Trent Williams. So while it's a cop-out to say, I don't know, it's also the right answer because his mere presence is not going to neutralize the Jets' defensive line. But how he plays will. If he struggles because he hasn't had a training camp, the Jets' defensive line should be successful. The 49ers have nothing in depth. They have nothing. Trent Williams is their guy. It's why they paid him the money that they paid him. So I look at where things are right now with New York. I look and say, okay, right now, this defensive line should still be successful. Do I think that it could change if Williams looks like the all-pro? Oh, you better believe it. Without a Reddick, you better believe it. But I don't have the answer for that because we don't know how Williams is going to look.
Yeah, I've been getting lit up on social media for saying, great, an out-of-football shape Trent Williams coming in here. Like, you could be in shape. Trent Williams, I'm sure, has a great physique. I'm sure he looks terrific. But again, there's a difference, and I can't say this enough. So screw all the social media people. I refuse by your pressure to delete my tweet. My tweet will stay up, you bastards. And Trent Williams out of football shape is totally within the realm of possibilities. And him getting ready within a week, he might be sucking wind by the third or fourth quarter. Football shape, people. That's what I'm talking about, especially with those fresh waves. Yeah.
Nick Bosa said it last year. This is the same team. Like the best defensive player on the 49ers is Nick Bosa. Most people agree with that statement. He said he needed a training camp. So why is Trent Williams different? Why would Trent Williams be different? That's my point. He could listen. I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm not saying that.
Right. Yeah.
And he very well could be fine. But we don't know. And it's not fair to us to assume he'll be bad or good or anything in the middle because it's just we have no idea.
Yeah, he is a superstar offensive tackle, arguably the best offensive tackle in football right now, but everyone is human. They're mortal. And there is, again, football shape is a massively important piece to the puzzle. Let's go back to the phone lines. We've got NY Jets FL here on the show.
Morning, gentlemen. I'm not going to get political or anything, but
oh boy,
let me see if I get this right. Offense, defense, special teams, something with Paul Green. I just had it in my mind, but I just lost it real quick. Very catchy, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Perfect guess, Nick, because I have a question about Devin White, and I don't know if the rumors are hot or not. I would love to see Devin White as a depth piece on the Jets.
Ooh.
Because I could see, I don't know if he could play middle linebacker, but if CJ struggles a little, Devin White, let's just say this. I saw him at the, I live in Tampa area, so I've seen him. He can be a situational pass rusher like Frank Clark, almost like a Frank Clark type. You don't like that, Nick, huh?
Devin
He's
White,
had five. Yeah, he's had 5 sacks one year and 9 another. That guy can definitely still rush the passer. And if we feel like we want to add another depth piece, that'd be the guy. But go ahead, Nick. What is this, just smoke or what?
Okay, I'm going to make things very, very clear.
Oh wow.
The Jets have
let's
the
see
Jets have the best linebacking room in the National Football League. Bar none, I think most people argue. The worst linebacking room in the NFL going into the regular season resides in Philadelphia. Again, I'm not arguing with this. I have seen it firsthand. They are putrid, top to bottom, and because they don't value the position. They've never valued the position. They don't do it. Right, wrong, indifferent doesn't matter. They don't value the position. If the worst linebacking team in football is telling you that Devin White is not good enough to play on our team in a role that is conducive to getting the field, what does that tell you about the player? And yes, Devin White was really, really good early on in his career. He has fallen off a cliff in the last 2 or 3 years. He was benched late last year. He was awful last season before that. He signed a short-term deal with Philadelphia with the expectation that it was going to be him as a starting linebacker and Nakobe Dean as the starting guy. You do not want Devin White as your backup if the worst room in football is saying, we don't want him here. And the other point that I will say, just very, very quickly, if you're worried about C.J. Mosley, I have said this for months. I've said this now for years. People call me a Jamie and Sherwood truther. And honestly, I might just be. Because what I have seen from him on tape, what I have seen from him in practice, your replacement for C.J. Mosley is not Devin White. Your replacement for C.J. Mosley is already on the roster, and it's Sherwood. Because he can play all downs. He can play in coverage. That's why I have said, if the Jets see C.J. Mosley falling off a cliff a little bit and slowing down even more than he did late last season, which I'm not hoping for. I don't think anyone's hoping for, but it is a realistic possibility. You got to make sure that you're able to pull the plug quickly because this defense requires good linebackers. That's where a guy like Jamie Sherwood comes in and produces really, really well.
Well, I was thinking more of the lines of Devin White being, in case Reddick decides to, this extends into the season, a decent amount. I was thinking you could get Devin White in here, although you claim, you say he's, handicapped at this point. I don't know. If you can get a half a sack a game, we don't have Reddick. I might be willing to take that chance. If he could be a backup for Quincy Williams possibly and give him a blow. I don't know. I would love to have a little more depth everywhere if we're gonna, with this kind of team. And he's won a Super Bowl too. That's another thing. He's got leadership skills. The leadership part.
He does not. Oh, no. You look at the problems in Tampa Bay. Just look him up online. There were some problems in Tampa Bay. There were some problems. It hasn't happened in Philadelphia, at least to my knowledge, but there were problems in Tampa Bay because of him. And he wasn't happy about how much he was paid. He wasn't happy about his role, all that other stuff. And he's also a linebacker.
Sounds like a typical player, though, sometimes. You got to,
when you're playing as bad as he was, though, just get better. And yeah, he's still young, but there were a lot of times where he wasn't playing the defensive strategy that they wanted and other things and other problems. You do not want Devin White on your. If Philadelphia is saying we don't want this guy, that should be the biggest red flag on the face of the planet because they desperately need linebackers.
I won't argue with you, Nick, but I'm still a little intrigued by a player like that, and he's a 1-year piecemeal. Maybe he would settle down a little bit. I don't know, with this kind of scheme. If we need him, he can get 5 sacks out of the year, and maybe we don't see Hassan Reddick till week 8. I might be willing to take a chance on that one. I'm not sure.
All right,
But I
interesting.
understand your point. I understand your point. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, NY Jets FL, for joining us here on the show. And Nick, thank you for joining us here on the show. And again, the pivot, Nick will join us typically every Wednesday morning at 7:30 for Boy Green Daily. Nick, before we get you out of here, a Jets 49ers prediction? What's your score prediction?
I maintain this. I'm still confident in it. 31-21. I'll see you guys week 2 after a 1-0 start and an upset of the 49ers. Listen, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'm a Jets reporter. I like to talk to players when they're happy because they're easier to talk to.
Of course, yeah.
There is added pressure and bonus here for me to see the Jets win today on Monday night, and that is because my team is going to be seeing the 49ers a lot this year. So anytime they can get a loss, I will be very, very pleased.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Thank you, Nick, and we'll catch you next week, pal.
Thanks so much, guys.
There he is, Nick Faria, our Jets reporter from the Pro Football Network and Athlon Sports. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. 500 people in the room. Make sure you guys like that video. Hit subscribe. We appreciate it, baby. We'll be back on in a couple of hours at 3 o'clock. We'll be having a 49ers guru on the show with me and James Woody to preview that matchup. So I'm ready to get in some of the X's and O's and the storylines and everything else. That'll be coming up, like I said, at 3 o'clock today. It'll be myself, it'll be Woody, and a 49ers Insider. So make sure you guys check out that show coming up in a couple hours. And tomorrow morning, Mike Greenberg, a.k.a. Greeny, will be joining this show. I can't believe it. I'm still pinching myself about it. It's going to be terrific to have Greeny on the program. Make sure you guys spread the good gospel of Boy Green Daily, whether you're watching the show live or after the fact, or even listening to the audio-only version. Show your support wherever you're watching, and we're trying to grow the YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. Also, tomorrow I'll be back on the Jake Hasman Show, as I am for every Friday here as well. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take care.